Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. So tell me about. Let's rewind it a bit.
Sure.
Who did you hang out with in high school, or like in your childhood?
Sure. So I went for a school for advanced kids. I think that's what the polite way to say it these days is.
So you were in a gifted school.
Yeah, it was in a gifted program
Right.
since grade 3.
Right.
Prior to that, I was in an advanced behavioral school. I was a troubled child.
A troubled child.
A very troubled child.
Because you were too advanced.
Or maybe because I was too mischievous. I got kicked out of 6 different schools.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I didn't hear this story.
No,
tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, my parents are to their great shame, and
Right.
I guess now they kind of understand now,
Right.
because there's no manual how to raise an advanced kid. And so, I would misbehave in class. I would, during playtime, I would like pick fights and
Just walk up to a kid and start like picking.
well,
a fight.
they would take my toys, and it's like, hey, you didn't ask, and it's like
You didn't ask.
exactly. It's very mischievous. I just got bored very easily. I just didn't see the point of doing half these things.
Right.
Because
Right.
I went from point A to point Z. The process is not something I appreciate until adulthood.
Right. Right.
But as a kid, you just if you saw how you got to point Z without this process that you learn, it can be frustrating. You got to
Right.
wait until everyone catches up with you.
Why? Like, it's like kind of like doing math and
Yeah.
you gotta show your steps. It's like,
Yeah.
Like really?
It's like, that's the answer.
Right.
And I remember it's interesting you say math. We had Kumon math in one of our years.
Yeah. Cool.
And it's just repetition and repetition. It's just like, someone, please, this is too much. I just couldn't. It's just I got the point the first time or the second time.
Right. Right.
Don't need this repetition. So that's why I would have acted out and got kicked out.
Right. So your parents, I remember you telling me that
Right.
you guys are immigrants.
Yeah.
From
Trinidad.
Trinidad,
Yeah.
right? And your parents, you guys came to Canada.
Yeah.
You went to 6 different schools
Yeah.
until they
Oh,
finally.
even more. I mean, the story is even more complex than that.
All right.
So I went to, I moved around a lot as a child.
Right.
And, went to numerous schools before then. And when we came to Canada, I also went to numerous different schools, just trying to find the perfect fit.
Right.
And if that fit never actually came, to be very frank.
Even the advanced school.
Even the advanced school, it was a program where you would, in the beginning of the week, you would say to your teacher what you're doing. You would write a contract for the week, and you say what your activities are going to do, and you would do it. I would finish it the first 2 days, and the last 3 days I would just goof around. And
Wow.
so
it's very much self-driven.
It's
You
self-driven.
have so much autonomy. kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think they realized I needed autonomy at some point, which is not surprising why I became a professor, because you have pretty much full autonomy.
Right. Right.
There's no real boss. You make your own hours. You're driven. You have to self-drive yourself and motivate yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So in elementary school, were you years before your peers?
Yeah, so I didn't go to kindergarten. I skipped right to what in the Caribbean they call Standard 1, which is the equivalent of grade 1, I guess. But
So you were like 5 and you were in grade
I was
1.
3.5, 4 years.
3.5 and you were in grade 1.
Yeah, and
So your peers would be 6?
five
or
and a half,
6?
6. Yeah,
5.5, 6, right?
yeah. It was, again, when we talk about it, it seems kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird. But when you're a kid, and even today, age is not something I think about.
Right.
If you ask me what my age is, I actually have to calculate what my age is. Because I guess if you don't know anything different, you just think you're normal until you look back and you're like, oh, this is abnormal.
Right.
But there's a catch-22. If you're complacent, that you're so, you've done things so quickly, you feel like, why continue doing? You can just wait until everyone catches up.
Right.
But that's not how I was socialized to think.
Right,
It's just socialized to do what you enjoy and be the best at it.
Right. So you were socialized to be driven, and even like if you're like years ahead of other kids.
It's not
keep
something
going.
that was conscious of.
Right.
It was not even in the world, my worldview of how old
Just
I
keep
was.
doing you kind of thing.
Just do what I have to do, and to be very frank, for my parents, they just wanted to make sure I wasn't in more trouble. So it's pretty much that, right?
Right.
It's just hopefully he gets through schooling, and and he actually finishes schooling. That's what they're concerned about.
Right.
They're also concerned with the social aspects, right?
So tell me about life in this advanced school then. Like,
Right.
were you there throughout high school, like for like elementary and high school?
No, so there were different advanced programs, different schools that had advanced programs. Jumped numerous schools. So from elementary schools, I started in grade 3, grade 4. went French immersion, learned a few languages on the way. They put us into a program where the same classmates you would have throughout. So we never actually mixed with others at some point.
It's kind of like a cohort system.
Yeah, in many respects. By grade 9, I was in grade 13. So in Ontario, they had a grade 13 OAC year.
Yeah.
So in grade 9, I was doing most of my courses, save for PE, was OAC.
Right.
So I started OAC in grade 9, and grade 10, I finished all the OAC courses in my school. So
you went straight to university.
Well, at that juncture, the counselors were saying, "Well, you're 12 and a half. You can't go straight to university at 12 and a half."
Why not?
Well, they're child protection laws.
Okay.
So, in fact, I think I might be mistaken in the particular age, but I think for most North American jurisdictions, you need to get a background check if you're working with minors. And so university professors do not get background checks.
Right.
So that's why I ended up going to Oxford because they didn't do the background checks back then.
Oh, okay.
So that's the reason why I ended up going there at 14. But I could have graduated at 13, but socially they didn't think I was ready. So this is called my grade 10 year, going on grade 11 year. I ended up doing grade 12 and grade 11 courses. I went backwards.
Backwards.
So
like all the OAC's done.
Yeah.
Just go work back now.
Yeah, and it got to the point where I never showed up to class. My teachers were like, "Why are your grades worse off in grade 12 and grade 11 than your OAC year beforehand?" Right. Just like at that juncture, I probably was going to fail. I was going to fail out of schooling. And so they said, "Okay, you should probably go to university.
Just move on."
Yeah, just move on. Yeah.
Who did you hang out with in high school then?
I'm non-threatening.
Right.
So I hanged out with the jocks, hanged out with the athletes, or I guess the athletes, hang out with goths, hang out with people musically inclined, hanged out with the actors, I hanged out with the dweebs, you name it, pretty much all the social groupings, because again, it was non-threatening.
Right, you're kind of like a social chameleon.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's helpful when you grew up just going in so many different schools. It's very easy to make friends.
Right. It's like, it's for you, it's just
like... Yeah, it's just like whatever. It's just you connect with people in different ways. And if you have so many different interests, from music to sports to reading or whatever it might be, you were able to find these different groupings in schools. So. And
at these schools, you wouldn't stand out as being exceptionally young because everyone's kind of advanced.
Well, advanced, but not young. So most people I was the youngest. I was always the youngest.
You were always the youngest.
But luckily, I had my growth spur at a younger age. So physically, I kind of looked the way I am. But people would have known. I remember I had in my OEC year, people would like, here's a young one. Let's take care of him. It's more like that rather than he's a freak kind of.
Right.
I was it could have been worse socially. Right. So I was very lucky that people are supportive. And even in university, people were super supportive.
So after high school, you went to Oxford?
I went to Oxford.
And then what did you do in Oxford?
So I was enrolled in philosophy, and so I did that for a year. And,
is that a 3-year program?
It's a 3-year program. I did it for a year, but I transferred to Georgetown.
Okay.
Because at that point, they were able to, the age was not an issue at that juncture.
Right.
So I went to Georgetown and then came to Queens, and so I transferred again. And you can see a pattern here in my own university career, right?
Right. So you didn't finish Georgetown. It was like only a year.
I only did a year and a bit. Oxford a year and Queens a year.
And you were alone the whole time? Or did your parents come with you?
No, I was always alone.
You were always alone?
Yeah.
So wait, how did you survive as a 14-year-old alone in Oxford?
It's not that, it sounds, the way you put it, it's like, oh, how did he do that? It's like going to boarding school. It's like...
but there's no boarding program. That's the thing. It's kind of like...
But it is boarding, except you have more... Yeah, but you have... you live in dorms, or you live in colleges. It's a life that... It's just... Again, you don't know any different. You do not think you're 14. You just think you're 18, 19-year-old, just doing the normal thing.
You can't go to the bars, though.
Well, it's interesting that you say. For the most part, I was able to go to the pubs and stuff, but I never really drank that much. I just remember one incident where it was a birthday party at the pub. It was the pub in Oxford. It was interesting.
College one or public one?
Public one. It was a public one. It was a King's Arms. I'm not sure.
King's Arms, yeah, of course.
And it was at 9 p.m. and beyond, and the guy goes to me, you're kind of young. I don't know if you should be here.